guys, it's Craig here, and as promised, today I'm going to attempt to repair this sign that was sent to me from a fellow whose name is Andy. And just in case you don't know, the story behind this is that this sign is an illuminated sign, although it's not illuminated at the moment, and you'll find out why. He sent this to me, and as you can see, I'll just take it down off of here for a sec. As you can see, it's a piece of plastic. It's got engravements on it here with beer stuff and Craig's home bar, come early, stay late, all that stuff. Okay, and I'll show you a picture of the sign when it was working. Beautifully illuminated sign. Okay, so I had this hanging up in my brewing area, and a couple of days after I had it plugged in, unfortunately, the bulb inside burned out. And it was what's inside here was a sort of a fluorescent tube. Okay, probably a low voltage fluorescent tube. So I contacted Andy and we talked a little bit, and he said that they were going to send him a new bulb, which they did, for free, so nobody had to pay anything, I hope. And so I installed the new bulb, and there was a new ballast and assembly and everything. They sent all the insides, a whole new version of them. And I hooked it all up, and it worked only for a couple of days, and then it burned out again. So I tried switching the bulbs around. I tried switching the ballasts and stuff around. Nothing was going to make it work. So I set it aside, and now we're going to try to see if we can get it to work. We're going to modify it, see if we can get it to work again. Okay. So I'll just show you what I've done so far. I've already taken the screws out of the sides here. So these things come off, the side panels. Okay, and there's that. And it's just hollow inside now, as I've taken all the stuff insides out of it, and I've basically tossed them because they weren't working anyways. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach to this. I'm not going to try and find another fluorescent fixture to put in here. What we're going to use are some LEDs. Okay, and I'll show you a close-up of these. Okay, here we are, and as you can see, there's 9 little LEDs there. This came out of a flashlight similar to this one here, which is pretty bright. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to have any problems there. I hope. I don't know if this is even going to work. We're going to try it. All right, so now first thing I have to do is figure out how I'm going to do this. I'm going to take these LEDs off of this little circuit board that they're on, and I can tell by looking at this circuit board and the way it's all wired there that these LEDs are hooked up in parallel. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a little bit, because that's really going to matter. That will absolutely matter whether this is going to work or not. So I'll be taking those out. And what I'm going to do is I've already got myself a strip of cardboard. This is something that I just cut off of an old album cover. Okay, and I'm going to use this. You can see I've got the dots there. And those dots represent where I'm going to place each LED. Okay, and then this, once I get it all hooked up, is going to slide into here, and the LEDs are going to shine down and hopefully illuminate the sign. Okay, so that's the plan. Now I've also got some picture hanging wire here. This is a fairly stiff wire. It's a conductor, so I can use it as a wire. And I'm going to basically, once I get all the LEDs into here, which I hope I'll be able to do because I think the wires on these are really short, so we'll see what happens. Then I can string them together and sort of run rails along the back of this thing and solder the LEDs onto that. And then hopefully get it all in there. Now there's only one problem. I've decided to use this as a power source, all right? And I've had to do a little bit of math here, and still have to do a little bit of math to figure out whether this is going to work properly. Because I know these are hooked in parallel, and I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second, And I know that these run on 4.5 volts because there's 3 batteries in the flashlight, and each battery is a 1.5 volt AAA cell. So 4.5 volts. And this, I'm using this, it's an old adapter from a router that I don't use anymore. And this puts out 5 volts DC. And that's a little too much for these little LEDs. In fact, I've already tried hooking them up and they get hot. So I'm going to need to cut this down to 4.5 volts, which means I'm going to have to figure out a specific value of a resistor that I'm going to have to dig out of something or somewhere around here. And we'll show you how all that works. Now, as far as this parallel series thing, I've made you a little diagram here. Now you might recall those old Christmas lights, the ones where when one bulb burns out, the whole string goes, and you have to find which bulb it is and replace the bulb, which basically that was my job all these years, was sitting on the living room floor taking out each bulb and replacing it with a new one to figure out which one it is. And once you got that new bulb in there, all the lights would come back on. Okay, now that is what you call a series circuit. All right, so the electricity comes out one end, goes through all the bulbs, and then comes around and goes back. Now if one of these bulbs is burned out, okay, then the electricity can't keep going through. It stops and it can't make the complete circuit, so none of the bulbs get any power. Okay, now if each of these bulbs handles 4.5 volts, let's say, then I'm going to need 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 volts. I'm going to need 5 times 4.5 volts to get these bulbs to light up. So whatever 5 times 4 is 20, what's that, 23.5 volts? Something like that. So for 5 bulbs, I'm using 9 bulbs in this flashlight repair, or the sign repair thing. Okay, now in a parallel circuit, you can see that the bulbs are hooked, they're all hooked to the same common rails. So the power gets to each bulb individually. And if you remove one of the bulbs, it won't matter because the power can just keep on going until it hits the next bulb. All right? And those are the Christmas lights that when one burned out, all the rest still worked. Okay? So you just had to replace the bulb and everything was fine. Now, in this circuit we're building today, slightly different. This is not going to be like these, because these are 120 volts, presumably, or 240 volts, whatever it is in your country. But this is representing this thing, okay, this little power brick that I have that's basically giving off 5 volts DC. And this little resistor here is going to be what reduces it from 5 volts to 4.5 volts. So basically I have to make, there has to be a voltage drop across this resistor of 0.5 volts. And I haven't figured out exactly what value of resistor that's going to have to be yet, but we'll do that. And as you can see, these are my LEDs. I've only drawn 4, but that's the symbol for an LED. And I've got them hooked in parallel, so they're each going to get 4.5 volts. Okay, if I had hooked them up like this, they wouldn't work off of 4.5 volts because I need 5 times 4.5 for a circuit like that. So this is how this little thing is actually hooked up already, and that's what I have to try and imitate in this little circuit that we're building. All right, let's put that down. Now I hope that there's enough bulbs to illuminate the sign completely, and this is what I don't know yet. This is what we're going to find out, because these bulbs are very directional, and I'm hoping that I don't end up with 9 bright spots going along the sign instead of one nice uniform illumination. Okay, it does look like it diffuses light pretty good if you look on it edge on, and if I shine a flashlight into it, I'll just pull this out for a second and you can see that most definitely this is going to work to some extent. Sorry, I'll move my arm out of the way for you. Once I get the LEDs mounted into this little piece of cardboard here, which I'm going to just poke little holes, we'll see all this on camera. That's my plan. let's get started. The first job I need to do is get these LEDs off of this little wafer. Okay? Okay, I should be able to choose one of these. This is a very small stuff. I got it with my needle nose pliers, the little LED, and then I should just be able to melt the solder if my soldering iron is hot enough. Oh, there, see? There we go. There's one. Okay. Now, I'm just going to continue to do that. It's kind of like pulling teeth a little bit. And until I get them all out. Yeah, I do need a new tip for my soldering iron. There we go. Took a little while. All right, I'm gonna continue to do this. It's not very exciting to watch until we get all these LEDs out here. You can see I've got it in a vise, and there's the other side. And I'm just pulling them out one by one. Okay, and as you can see, I've taken them all off. There's one there. Oh boy, the wires are really, really short. So I hope I'm going to be able to even mount these onto something, because there's not much there to work with. Okay, so I've got them all out, and if you can see that, the leads on these LEDs are very short. But I've determined, because I've got a spare piece of cardboard here, I've determined that I can get them to go through and poke out the other side, just barely. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, what I'm also going to do is see if I can't make some little score marks. I'm just doing it on this test piece here. And if I just take this LED and just press it into the cardboard, right? It should, yeah. So it leaves little score marks there. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do that all along here, where all these dots are, and then I'm going to use this is just a probe from my multimeter, and I'm going to use that to go ahead and poke the holes into the cardboard. Okay, I did that. Now, you might not be able, yeah, you can. You can see on the other side, you can see. So all I'm going to do now is go along and use my little probe here. And I have to look really close at this. In fact, I've got a really strong pair of glasses on. And I'm just going to make sure that I get right on each hole, or each indent. Exactly there. Again, I'm gonna turn off the camera and go all along and do those. All right, perfect. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to test each and every LED with my multimeter, and I'll just grab that for you here, and we'll get it so you can see. Put it on a diode test, because these are diodes. All right. Oh, you're not going to be able to see that. Okay, I'm not actually getting a reading on my multimeter from this. However, I am able to make it light up by checking it. See? And I had to switch it around to get it to do that. All right, now if I was to turn it around and hook it up, it wouldn't light up. So now I know which direction it goes. However, remembering back to my old electronic days, LEDs have a little flat part on them. And the flat part, and I don't know if you'll ever be able to see this, if I get it close enough, on the very bottom of the rim here. Do you see that little flat part there? That's the negative terminal on the LED. So now I know, and I don't have to check the rest of them. I can just put them all, as long as I put them all in the same way, then we're good to go. So let's start inserting them and soldering them into onto this little board we've got here. Okay, so I got this first LED. I've got it inserted into the board. You can see the little flat side there at the bottom. and I've got it inserted into the, whoops, I'm moving it the wrong way, into the negative side. That's the positive there. That's the negative. That's towards you. And that's where the little flat part is. Now it's just sitting in there. Now what I'm going to do is try to flip this over. Okay. Just move it over a little bit here. And I'm going to try, I've got my piece of picture hanging wire here, which I've put a small amount of solder right there, as you can see that, just for the first connection here. And I should be able to get that, and I gotta get in real close to see what I'm doing here. I should be able to whack that on there, just like that. Not the neatest soldering in the world, but there we have it. You see? And that's gonna do, I'm gonna do that all the way along here with every single LED, so that they're all in the same way, and then I've got them all sort of anchored, and then I can go across and do the other side. All right, you can see I've got one rail in, and as I turned it over to show you the back, one of the LEDs fell out, as you can see. Right, where is it? Oh, right here. It's extremely hard to get them soldered because the leads are just barely making it through the cardboard, but I've managed to get all these in fairly securely just with the one lead. And then that one that just fell out, it hit my toe, so I can reach down, I'll try to get that one soldered back in. And then we'll do the other rail, the other side. All right, that took me a long time because the leads are so short. They're barely making it through the cardboard. They kept popping off. And of course, I'm burning the cardboard when I'm trying to solder to it. And that weakens the solder. However, I've got a battery here, and if I'm careful, I can move this and you guys can see that they're all finally working. They're not all the same brightness, unfortunately. They're close, but I don't know how that's going to affect the way the thing looks. Okay, I've got an old amplifier from an old tape player, and what I'm going to do is, I think I know which resistor I need, but I need to do some experimenting. See, but right there with the stripes on it, that's a resistor, and there's one over here. And depending on the colors, the color code on the resistors, that's how you tell what resistance they are. So if I pull out a 100 ohm resistor and it doesn't quite do enough, then I'll look for a 500 ohm resistor. All right, well, while I was looking for a resistor, I realized that it would be a lot easier for me to use a diode. This is a silicon diode. Whoops. And when you put these in your circuit in series, they drop the voltage by about 0.5 volts. So I put this in my circuit, and my lights still got kind of bright and started to turn color a little bit, so I knew that I was overdriving them. So I attached it to a second diode. So we have two diodes in series. We're getting about probably almost 1 volt of drop in here. So now when I hook these up, and I've got my power pack hooked up now, the batteries aren't hooked up anymore, the lights look pretty good. So I'm going to put this thing all together now. I'm going to solder. I've just got it hooked up sort of willy-nilly at the moment, just to check it, but I'm going to solder these diodes onto this little board and hook this all up properly and install it into the sign, and we'll see, finally we'll see if it's going to actually work. these aren't the neatest soldering jobs in the world. It's hard to solder onto cardboard. It burns. You got to be real quick. And what you get is what you get. If it's a sloppy job, you get it a sloppy job. It doesn't really matter at this point. Alright, and the other one goes onto here, right onto that little diode connection there. You see, there it is. It's going to work. So I'll just solder that right on. Okay, well, that's our light bar. And, well, I'm going to install it permanently into the sign. We'll see if it even does what it's supposed to do. All right, guys, well, I got her hung up, and I know there's no short circuits or anything like that. It's all working, but I don't know how it works while it's put together. So that's what we're going to check right now. I'm going to go over here and plug it in. You ready? After all that. All right, let's give it a whirl. Cheers. Oh, yo, look at that! Oh, it worked! That looks awesome! Oh, man, I'm so happy about that because, you know, when someone sends you something like that, special, custom made, you know, whatever, and it, like, if something goes wrong with it, you just want to do something. But I've had people send me, like, beer steins and stuff. They've come, and they're in pieces. You know, they got broken during transportation. I've tried to glue them together, and I just couldn't. I felt so bad, but there you have it. It looks awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you, Andy, so much for sending me this. And you know what? It's been a little while since I've done any electronics. I'll show you my workbench. Yeah, there's a few things. There's the soldering iron and different things and tools and that thing so I can see what I'm filming. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found that interesting. I did. And we'll see you real soon. Cheers. Take care.